Knowledge for Men, episode 63. Welcome to knowledgeformen.com, where you're going to grow into the man you want to be. Your life will never be the same again. I can guarantee it. This episode is brought to you by my private online meds group called The Lion's Den. You can check it out at knowledgeformen.com and click on The Lion's Den. If you've been listening to this podcast and you like the content, but find it hard to find other guys out there to relate to, talk to, share your wins and challenges with, maybe you're on your own path of personal development and other guys think it's weird or they're just not interested in what you're doing. You kind of feel like you're alone on this mission, but you're not. There's thousands of other guys out there who are on the same path, and I've been putting together a group called The Lion's Den to try and find these guys, bring them together. Hey, I know it's hard to make the push towards greatness in your life, and I found that the best way to get somewhere you've never been is to surround yourself with other people who are already there or who are on the same path as you. So The Lion's Den does just that. It's a group of men who want to achieve greatness in all areas of life: health, wealth, relationships, and personal growth. Check it out at knowledgeformen.com and click on The Lion's Den. Alright guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Joe Navarro. He's worked as an FBI special agent in the area of counterintelligence and behavioral assessment. Today he's one of the world's leading experts on nonverbal communication. He also lectures and consults with major corporations worldwide and at Harvard Business School. He's appeared on CNN, Fox News, BBC, The Times, CBS, NBC, and NPR. Joe, happy to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, Andrew.
All right, let's roll in with your favorite success quote and something that you've lived by, and if you can explain why.
My favorite quote has to be, we are more powerful, more knowledgeable, better prepared than we think we ever are. And I have to say this because almost in every situation where we have put ourselves down or where we think we can't, when the opportunity arises or there is a necessity, invariably we rise to that potential which we don't even see on a day-to-day basis. So I would have to say that definitely we have untapped potential.
And I'm wondering if this has anything to do with you joining the FBI.
So it's interesting because I never thought that, I would qualify to, first of all, to become an FBI agent. And here I was at the age of 22, I was approached and I didn't even have to apply. They approached me and I became an agent at the age of 23, one of the youngest agents ever to serve in the Bureau. And it's because other people saw the potential that I had, which I certainly didn't see in myself. So I think it's important that we, associate with individuals who have that advantage, that they can see our potential and then they just sort of point the way.
Yeah, and they really bring it out and they really bring the best out of you.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, let's go ahead and jump into your story and share with the audience how you got started with what you do.
Sure. So I came to this country as an immigrant during the 1962, right after Fidel Castro took over Cuba. And as with many Cubans, I settled here, but I didn't speak any English. So one of the first things that fortunately I was able to sort of decipher was the world around me. Did people like me or not like me? Did I fit in? And so forth. And my mother will tell you, from a very young age, I just started to focus on the body language to tell me what people were thinking, feeling, desiring, and so forth. And it served me well. Certainly by the time I got to the FBI, it was something that now I had been practicing for 18 years. And I started to see things in my bureau work where I would turn to my colleagues and say, did you see that? Or did you see this? And they would say, no, I didn't see it. Or, yeah, I saw it, but I don't know what it means. And so I sort of developed a reputation for, if you have an issue with nonverbals, send it to me. And of course, at that time, it was 35 millimeter film and later DVD. But there were still a lot of people that were skeptical until we started to sort of formalize these observations. And then they started to realize, oh, that's why we're seeing these behaviors. These behaviors mean this. And I was able to successfully parlay that in the Bureau And in fact, I belong to a very specialized unit that at one time was classified, and there were only 6 of us in this unit. You had to be selected for it. And this is principally what we did. We looked at human behavior. My area was the nonverbals, or what people call body language.
Okay, and so that's where you are now. You're in the nonverbal communication field where you're speaking, you're consulting, you've written books.
So what happened was, I put in my 25 years. I had a great time in the bureau, worked all sorts of great cases. And probably a month before I was ready to retire, I started getting phone calls from the private sector saying, first it was insurance companies, then it was banks, and then financial institutions. And I think I've done the full gamut now. Can you come and talk to our group about how it is that you observe people, what we should be observing, how to conduct due diligence, how do I detect if there are issues, how do we do proper interviews in an HR setting, how do we manage people using nonverbals and so forth. And what's interesting was not once did I ever have to advertise. It was all by word of mouth. And it wasn't until I think 5 or 6 years ago that I finally said, okay, I got to put up a web page because everybody else has one. But it had all been done by word of mouth, and it's kept me very busy, both speaking and writing books. I just finished my 13th book, so yeah, very busy.
Wow, congratulations on that success.
Thanks.
And now, Joe, let's go into what you're an expert at. Nonverbal communication. Why is this important? How does this play a role in society today? And how can it help our audience?
Well, Andrew, as always, you ask good questions. Nonverbals have been with us for a very long time. And it's the primary means by which we communicate. From the moment we're born, we communicate. We're cold or hot. We are comforted or not comforted. We're hungry or not hungry. And even as we get older, it is still the primary method by which we select our mates. It is the primary way which we communicate love, empathy, and so forth. It's how we detect danger. It's how we detect when people are being truthful or not truthful. And so when we make a list of all the things that are covered by the nonverbals, it's extremely huge. People think, oh, it's my words that really influence others, and it's absolutely wrong. It is the nonverbals that entices others or seduces others psychologically. And we know that beginning in 1960 with the first televised presidential debate, where those who listened to it on the radio said Richard Nixon won, and those who saw it on TV said overwhelmingly Kennedy won. Well, you can't have it both ways. The deciding factor was the people who saw Kennedy on TV saw him as young, taller, tanned, very smooth in his gesture, smiling a lot. And that was psychologically very seductive. And to this day, there is no presidential debate that is not conducted, for instance, in people in suits with 2-button suits instead of 3-button suits in front of a blue background. Candidates are never allowed to stand and debate closer than 9 feet so that we can't determine their true size to each other until the debate is over. So it influences everything that we see and do. And this is what Daniel Goleman was talking about when he talked about having social or emotional intelligence, with the ability to use and interpret, decode nonverbal communications.
All right. And I'm wondering what % of communication is actually done through nonverbal communication?
Well, that's a great question. The numbers that are thrown out start at 60% and go as high as 80. But what I tell people is, you can't go by that because it's contextual. If you're dating someone and we've seen them where they're sitting at a cafe, they're staring into each other's eyes, maybe they're holding hands, and there is no oral communication. The nonverbals may account for as much as 99 or 100% of the message that's being transmitted. In a business meeting, maybe it's down to 55, 60%, but rarely does it drop down below that because we listen for how the message is delivered, the tone of voice, the depth of the voice, whether it's high tone, low tone. We listen to the cadence. We look for the nonverbals that emphasize, or maybe that are not being emphasized. So it's it's very high, but it varies. It can vary from one moment to another. I mean, all it takes is for two engineers to be talking about how to build something, and then all of a sudden somebody has all they have to do is say, by the way, there's been an accident with one of your cars, and immediately the nonverbals switch over and become even more important than the verbals. So it's very contextual.
All right, I understand a little bit better now. And can you share with the audience, like, what are the signs of discomfort? What are the signs that, hey, this person's not feeling good, this person looks untrustworthy? And what are the signs of comfort as well?
Yeah, so, as humans, we're very binary. From the time we're born, we either look contented or we look distressed, or that there's some sort of issue, and sometimes it has to do because we haven't been fed or we're cold or so forth. But we never really change that. I mean, in an instant, you hear a joke that probably should not be told, and you will see people immediately begin to display discomfort. They may compress their lips, they may furrow their forehead, they may literally lean away from the person that's telling the awful joke. You may see some ventilating behaviors, lifting up of the shirt or the jacket. You may see some neck touching, lip compression, lip pursing. The chin usually is drawn down towards the neck. You may see some hand wringing. All these behaviors are indicative of something negative. And there's a part of our brain, it's exquisitely elegant in that it doesn't really do a lot of thinking. It just processes information very quickly, and it's called the limbic system. And it reacts to the world. It doesn't stop and say, oh, this is high threat, low threat. This is a friendly snake, not a friendly snake. It reacts immediately to anything that would harm us, either socially or physically or mentally. And then it reacts to that so that others benefit from that reaction. So that if I see a lion, you don't have to see it. You'll know that I saw a lion because I'm walking and I stop. If I hear a joke that really should not be told in public, or certainly not in mixed company, and my face begins to distort or contort because of the psychological comfort. You may not speak English as well as I do because you're from another country, but the minute you see my face react to what's being said, you know that there's something wrong. And that's the efficacy of it, that it's immediate. There's not a lot of high order thinking, and we humans react to the world around us immediately. We don't almost hit the car in front of us, and then an hour later we do a cathartic exhale, which goes like this. We do a cathartic exhale the second we almost hit the car in front of us. And that's the way the limbic brain reacts to something that's negative.
All right. And also for the positive?
Well, for positive, our positive behaviors, our muscles relax, so there's no facial tension. We see more smiling. The orbits of the eyes are larger. When we see, for instance, somebody that we really like, we arch our eyebrows. So we go, hey, how are you? And we literally arch. We do gravity-defying behaviors. We throw our arms up and wave. And even things that we may not notice, we see someone we really like and our pupils dilate. We have no control over our pupils. You can't tell your pupils shrink or grow large, but when we see something beautiful or that we like, they immediately dilate. Your lungs expand. When you're comfortable, you are more territorial. The space, for instance, between your fingers grows. So even if you're sitting at a conference room and when you first get there, you feel uncomfortable, somebody walks in and says, hey, Andrew, good to see you. And all of a sudden, now we're sitting higher and the space from our fingers, between our fingers, immediately grows. These are positive behaviors indicative of psychological comfort. And we don't even think about it. They just happen instantly.
All right. Well, I could see how that would be effective being an FBI agent. And now let's, like, what are some signs that somebody is just lying to you? Like, how can you just look at someone and know that, hey, he's doing this thing and that thing? Chances are he's probably lying. What are some things you can share with us?
Well, that's a tough question because the research clearly shows, since 1986, we've known, certainly FBI agents have known this, that there is no Pinocchio effect. There is no single behavior indicative of deception. What we see are when a person is lying or deceiving or hiding information, that there will be some sort of psychological discomfort as they hear the question, as they answer the question, or after they answer it. So these same behaviors of psychological discomfort we will see. Now the question is it because they're lying, or is there another issue? That's where the questions come in. But you can't say, oh, he touched his neck, so we know he's lying. Or people used to think if they look away or if they touch their mouth or their nose, they're lying. Well, that's just rubbish. There is no single behavior indicative of deception because both the honest and the dishonest do these behaviors. These are behaviors that are consistent with some sort of discomfort. But I'll give you an example. I was asked to assist with a white-collar crime case, something I rarely did because I work counterintelligence. And this poor woman, she was brought in, and usually after about 30 minutes, people start to calm down. This woman was just showing more and more displays of discomfort, psychological discomfort. It went from lip compression to lip biting to neck touching, neck rubbing, and then ventilating her blouse. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, wow, this lady's ready to confess. And I said, ma'am, is there something you want to get off your chest? And she said, well, thank God, Mr. Navarro, because when I parked downstairs, I only had 2 quarters and the meter's running out. And that's the point of it. I was seeing the behaviors, but what was driving the behaviors was she didn't want to get a ticket. It wasn't that she was lying. And in fact, somebody had stolen her ID. So you can sit there and look for and see the behaviors of psychological discomfort, but you can't assume that, oh, that must be deception. We have to ask more questions and say, what's causing this psychological discomfort?
So it sounds like it can help you, but it's not going to be 100%.
Exactly. It can help you. For instance, if every time I ask the person I'm interviewing, where were you last night? And it causes some sort of psychological distress to just answer that question, then the question is, well, why would it? What's going on here? And you may have to ask other questions like, did something happen, or and so forth. And sometimes words, what's often useful is words that have different weights. I'll give you an example from the book of what everybody is saying, where a man was stabbed to death, but nobody except myself and the suspect knew what kind of weapon was used for the stabbing. And so when we brought a suspect in, I went through a list of different weapons, including knife, machete, hatchet, shotgun, and so forth. Well, none of these words the person reacted to. But when I said the word ice pick, then I saw the displays of discomfort, because obviously the ice pick, which was actually used, has a different weight than the other items. And that confirmed for me that, oh, yeah, I'm dealing with the right person here. Now it's just a matter of getting them to tell me what happened. And eventually he did. He confessed. But so there are ways to do it. But, obviously this isn't a show on detecting the truth. But those are the kinds of things that you can use it for.
All right. And on the flip side, what are some nonverbal behaviors that can instantly establish trust with other people?
Yeah, this is mostly what we use nonverbals for. I'll give you an example. Nonverbals is something so simple as people who wear a 2-button suit will get more loans than the same person wearing a 3-button suit. And you say, well, what makes a big difference? And the big difference is the ventral display, the chest. You see more of the chest area. With a 3-button suit, you're more closed off. You look like one of the James Bond villains. or a North Korean leader. And so something like that is a nonverbal. But for instance, touching, the mere touching of another person on the arm for emphasis, you garner greater trust because it releases the chemical oxytocin. And there's been several studies that demonstrate that just that behavior alone is a powerful communicator of someone that you can rely on or you can trust. But certainly things like head tilt, where you tilt your head as you're listening to someone, it lets them know that you are an active listener and that you're interested and that you don't have an agenda. And gravity-defying behavior. So when you greet somebody, you arch your eyebrows. And you go, hey, how are you? Rather than just saying, hey, how you doing? And your eyes never really move.
Yeah, I really like that, the gravity-defying behavior. It's like when you get really excited, you put your arms up, your eyebrows go up, your legs could go up. It really says a lot.
Yeah, when you greet somebody, you reach high to greet them. You probably notice that you don't go to any football stadium around the world and they give you a memo and says when they score, you raise your hands.
Yeah, no, keep it down, guys. Everybody keep it down.
Right. It's the brain, especially the limbic brain that is involved with emotions, says if it's really positive, we do it high and we do it outward. Well, you can just translate that into everyday business stuff. You walk with a stronger pace. When you greet people and you defy gravity, in essence, you're saying, touchdown, you're meaningful to me. We know that, for instance, the people who are clinically depressed do almost no gravity-defying behaviors. They don't arch their eyebrows. They even stoop. They don't stand as tall and so forth. So it communicates a lot.
Yeah, it really does. And which one do you think comes first? Is it the mind that's telling the body to act this way, to behave this way physically? Or can we change this and change your body language, and that's going to change your mind?
Well, innately, we're born to communicate. I mean, the baby immediately communicates when it's cold or hungry, and when the baby arches its eyebrows and the mother responds in kind, then the baby rewards that with an even bigger smile. Just go up to any baby in the first 6 months and arch your eyebrows and go, hi, and you'll see how it's immediately rewarded. So these things are hardwired. They're part of our paleo circuits. We don't really control over that. But we can also mirror these behaviors. We can introduce them at times to do perception management. So if I do about 37, 40 events a year all over the world. When I get in front of a stage, I don't know anybody there. But I know that if I greet them with a smile, I arch my eyes and so forth, it leaves better sentiments than if I just stand up there and I say, yeah, I'm an ex-FBI agent, listen to me. Well, they're not going to listen to me. They're looking for displays that communicate to them, just like a mother with a baby. I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm for you, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we can mirror these behaviors for our own benefit, and we call that perception management.
Yeah, I can see this really being effective with dating, and you're going out, you want to put your best face forward.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly want to groom, you certainly want to stand taller, you certainly want to indicate that the person you're with matters and that you treat them different than, everybody else, more special and so forth. But it can also backfire if you don't know how to do it right. These behaviors can make you look sticky, they can make you look like you're clingy, they can make you look like, oh, you're moving too quick, too fast. Politicians screw this up all the time. I'll give you an example of one. The two-handed handshake. Two-handed handshake you should only use with your grandmother. And yet politicians invariably, and it's called the politician's handshake, invariably shake with two hands, thinking, oh, you mean more to me than the average person. What they don't realize is that, one, they're not entitled to do that, and two, it reeks. Nobody likes it, except maybe if you're, like I said, holding your grandparents' hands. And so they're trying to do so much perception management that it just doesn't come across right. It reminds me of Joe Biden when he went to this blue-collar factory, and here he is. He said, he takes off his jacket like, okay, I'm one of you, but he's wearing, these gold cufflinks that obviously say, no, I am not one of you. And you can really screw up the message if you don't do it right.
Okay, so it can be good, and it can also go against you.
If you're good, and this is what world-class actors are great at nonverbals. And that's really all they're great at. Because you can watch any movie with Marlon Brando or really the great actors, and you can turn the volume off. Watch The Godfather without the volume on. You can track the whole movie. And why? Because everybody in that movie had great nonverbals. But if you screw the nonverbals up, in essence, you're not delivering and on full potential, and in some cases you can actually turn people away, and it often happens.
Yeah, and it really shows how powerful nonverbal communication is. Because if you're going to watch a movie and you can understand what they're saying without the volume on, that's very powerful. And I think this can really affect our relationships. It can affect business. So it's something so powerful, yet we're not even really conscious about it. It's just kind of how our body reacts. Yet I think you can really start to work on that and be more conscious of your body language so that you can really communicate more effectively. And now, Joe, it's time that we enter my favorite part of the show. It's called the Knowledge Round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, I want to give you more details about the Lion's Den. It's a private Facebook group where you post your goals in health, wealth, relationships, and personal growth. The guys hold you accountable, and you have a place where you can get instant feedback from other high-performing men from around the world. You can get more details at knowledgeformen.com and click on the Lion's Den. There's men's coaches in there, there's dating coaches, fitness coaches, millionaires, guys with startups, guys who just graduated college and are happy to be surrounded by so many guys just making it happen for themselves. There's fathers in there, military personnel, and just all walks of life from all over the world. 70 guys strong right now and growing every day. But the one thing that we all have in common is that we just want to achieve greatness. We want to push ourselves. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to really just become the men we want to become and do it not alone. We don't want to do this journey, take this path alone. We want to do it together with other men. And that's what I find so powerful about this group. We also do monthly Google Hangouts, which is sort of like an online meetup with about 12 guys in each hangout. So you can meet all these guys and build stronger relationships with other high-performing men. And there's also a structure to each hangout. Guys, this group only costs $19 a month for a limited time. You can get more details and you can set up a consultation with me at knowledgeformen.com and click on the Lion's Den and get started from there. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, Joe, how would you explain nonverbal communication to a newcomer?
It's very simple. It is the primary way we evolved to communicate, and it translates across all cultures.
All right, nice and simple. And what kind of advice would you give to someone who's feeling lost or unsure of their purpose in life?
Find somebody that impresses you, that is successful, especially in the business area, and try to emulate the things that they do. Musicians do this, but even in business we can do this.
All right, and what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
Thinking that because I'm an immigrant and I was not in the in group, I was in the out group, that I could not accomplish the same things as other people could.
I think that's something a lot of immigrants face. And Joe, can you name a person who's had an impact on your life? Maybe a mentor. What did he or she say to you that really had that moment for you?
Early on, I had a professor at Brigham Young University who said, don't hold back. Just do whatever you want to pursue. And I found that interesting because it tracked the same message that Joseph Campbell had talked about in his book, The Power of Myth. And that guy at BYU just happened to be Stephen Covey. He wasn't famous then, but he was my first year professor in business class that everybody had to take, but he was great.
Yeah, I never knew Stephen Covey was a professor before.
Yeah, he was a professor at BYU, and like I said, he wasn't famous then. His big thing in class was always have a 3x5 card in your pocket. write down everything that you've got to do the night before, clarify it that morning, and then just sign off on each thing as you fulfill it. And I always took that advice, and it works. You can get a lot done if you make a list every day.
Oh, right. I'm a big fan of I use sticky notes. I just stick it right on top of my computer, and it's annoying, so I have to get those things done. So yeah, I like that idea. And Joe, what are your 3 most influential books and why?
Herodotus, the histories, because everything we see today, we've seen before. And this was the father of history and observing people. He was really a great observer. I would have to say that Darwin, and not for his theory of evolution, but Darwin, most people don't realize, is the father of modern nonverbal communications, because he was the first to write in a second book, which came out much later, about the observations that he had made and how we as humans mimic a lot of the things that we see in nature, in other animals. And he wanted to explore emotions in humans and in animals. And I would have to say, probably than any other author, Desmond Morris, who beginning with the book The Naked Ape and then following up through with all his books, both as a zoologist and an anthropologist, nobody sees the world the way he does. I mean, his books, Man Watching, Body Watching, People Watching, are the sine qua non of nonverbal communications. They are without equal on this planet.
All right, I'll have to check out those books. And for all the listeners, you can pick up one of these books for free. If you go to kfmbook.com, you can pick up a free audiobook on Audible. And on to the next question here. What are 2 or 3 life skills that you need in order to succeed in your field?
Number one, you have to be a student. You have to be a lifelong student, and I am always observing and reading and learning. And I always tell myself, especially when I read somebody else's book and I look at the bibliography and I realize I don't know that much. There's so much knowledge out there. Just be humble, because I'm just starting to learn these things after 40 years. The second one is that most of the boundaries that are set are not set by society, but we set for ourselves, and that we hobble and keep ourselves from achieving so many things by either not sacrificing, not focusing, and by whispering to ourselves, you can't do it. And I think once you get over that, you realize that there are no boundaries.
All right. And scenario here for you, Joe. Imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
I would say read whatever you want to read. Don't be told what to read. But more importantly, and this is actually something that's in this last book that I wrote, I said, you have no social responsibility ever to be victimized. Don't stay in a relationship. Don't stay in a business. Don't stay in a job. Don't associate with anybody that's toxic, that brings you down, or victimizes you in any way, emotionally, psychologically, physically, or financially. You have no obligation to be a victim. And I wish somebody had taught me that when I was 20, and it would have saved me and spared me, as it might a lot of other people, a lot of pain and agony. Because you can't fix people, you can't be their therapist. You're going to find that there are people that will just drag you down, and we just have no social obligation to be victimized.
Oh, I think we should all just take a moment and reflect on that. Don't let yourself be a victim to anyone. It's really good. And Joe, do you have an underrated characteristic that you believe if people would work on this, they would see significant results in their life? So an underrated characteristic.
Focus. If you can focus on one thing, and I've noticed this with comedians, I've noticed this with great musicians. They can focus on getting this one little thing right. I've seen it with artists where they work. I saw an artist's notebook from the the Renaissance, and you can see them working on just how do I get the hair texture right? And you say, my goodness, there's 12 pages of how to draw hair, and you realize that's focus. Most people do not focus enough to where they get to the point where they can differentiate to the level of exceptional. They may be good, they may be great, but rare is the person that can focus enough to be exceptional. Like a Galileo or a Maxwell or a Da Vinci or a Beatle. That takes a lot of work.
Oh, it certainly does. And so, Joe, you've immigrated to this country. You know, you were in the FBI and you did well there, and you've gone on, you consult and speak for major Fortune 500 companies. You have best-selling books. You've done so much. And looking back, what would be your philosophy on life and success?
That it's not about me, that it's about others. It's about sharing information. I see a lot of people that just sit on information, or they want to be the ones that champion this or champion that. I think you grow larger when you share. I think you are better respected. I think you achieve more. When people ask why did Benjamin Franklin copyright or trademark the lightning rod? He could have been a billionaire, and his philosophy was the right philosophy. He said some things are just meant to be shared, and that's my philosophy.
All right, Joe, that's going to conclude the knowledge round. So what's exciting you now today? Like, what's getting you out of bed in the morning?
New opportunities to share information. I'm always working on a new book, or I'm getting ready to I was just in France where I did a presentation, came back, went to New York, getting ready one for September where I'll be going to Copenhagen. And just for the opportunities to have somebody in the audience actually recognize, oh, I can use this. I can put this to work. And that's what I look forward to every day, is learning something new and sharing something new.
That's really what it's all about. And Joe, go ahead and give yourself a plug so my audience can connect with you going forward.
Sure. They can go to joenavarro.net and can connect me through with me there. They can follow me on Twitter at Navarro Tells. And I'm also on Facebook. I blog with Psychology Today under the handle of Spycatcher. And I have a book coming out in September called Dangerous Personalities. And it's about the 4 personalities that hurt us the most in life. And it's the kind of book that can save people and can prevent people getting hurt. So I hope people will read it for that benefit.
All right, Joe, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story and life lessons with my community. I can't wait to get this one out.
Andrew, it's my pleasure. You ask great questions, as does your audience, and it was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 63 with Joe Navarro. All right, and the challenge item that I have for you guys listening is notice yourself in your next conversation that you're going to have, whether it's in a few seconds or minutes after you leave this podcast. Notice your body language. Notice, is it a positive body language? Notice your shoulders. Notice your hips. Notice your feet. Notice your smile. Notice your eyes. Notice your hands. Are you fidgeting? What are you doing with your body? Are you communicating positive body language or negative body language? Are you closed? Are you shouldered? Are you looking away? Are you not paying attention? Are you not present? Pay attention to that kind of stuff. If you're trying to connect with someone, if you're trying to build a relationship with someone and you're giving them negative body language and you don't even know it, it could be ruining that relationship. So in your next conversation, I want you to pay attention to that and bring it out. Bring out the positive body language. So I want to hear about this. You can email me at andrew@knowledgeformen.com. You can share with me anything from the past that you've learned and how the podcast has benefited you, hopefully in some way, or just this activity here. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. It's been a pleasure having you be a part of a thriving community of men who want to crush it in all aspects of life. I'm on a mission here to inspire millions of guys, and with your help, we're going to make a dent in the universe. Check out knowledgeformen.com for a ton of free content that's designed to help you live a remarkable life. Again, that's knowledgeformen.com. I hope to see you there. And always remember, 2014 is the official year of the crush, where we take action to get the life we've always dreamed of. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and until next time, let's do it.